Hello and welcome to my new video. Today I'll show you the most important WinRAR features every beginner should know. We won't cover every tiny setting because that would be too long and boring, but by the end of this video, you'll know how to use WinRAR like a much more advanced user. This video will be divided into 3 parts. Part 1, Basic WinRAR Skills. Part 2, Useful Everyday Features. Part 3, Semi-Pro Features. So with no further ado, let's get started. Let's start with the main WinRAR feature, extraction of archives. There are multiple ways to do so. If you right-mouse click on an archive, you should see the WinRAR menu. Within it, there are 4 different options. Option 1 is to simply open up the archive, which can also be done by double-clicking on the archive. But we'll get to this later. Let's move on to the second option, which is extract files. By using this option, you can choose where you want to extract the files. For example, I will extract the files to a custom folder which I will name how I desire. As you can see, the files were extracted to my manually named folder. The second option allows you to immediately extract the files into a folder named exactly the same as the archive, which is wallpapers in our example. And if you choose the last option, extract here, all of the files will be extracted within the same folder the archive is located in, which can become messy if there are a lot of files. Also, by simply opening the archive, you can click Extract to extract the files into a desired folder, or you can even just drag and drop the files from the archive anywhere on your computer. You can even do that for separate files in case you don't need to extract all of the files and just need one or a few particular files. Now let's learn how to create a basic archive. Let's create an archive for these wallpapers. Simply select all the files and right-mouse click. Then within the WinRAR menu, you'll have an option, Add to Archive. By selecting this option, you will be able to rename the archive. I will name it Wallpapers. Now, we can choose what kind of archive we want to create. It can be a RAR or zip. RAR is better if you want WinRAR's stronger features. Zip is better if you want maximum compatibility, because almost every system can open zip files. In my case, I'll choose RAR. And here we go. The archive was successfully created. Also, we can immediately create a RAR archive by selecting the second context menu option, Add to Archive, RAR. An archive is being created instantly within the folder named Archive. Now, let's learn about different compression methods. Let's create an archive again, but this time, we'll adjust one more setting, which is the compression method. As you can see, there are 6 different compression methods. The difference is basically how fast an archive will be created, as well as what the archive's final size will be. Let's create 2 identical archives, but using the very first store method and the last best method, and then compare the difference. The store method offers no compression, just packs files together quickly, while the best method tries to compress more but takes longer. Here we have 2 archives with identical files within them. But as you can see, using the best method, we managed to achieve a 2.97 megabyte size, while using the store method, the size is 3.01 megabytes. Keep in mind that the difference is so small because I used small-sized files for this example. If you try to compress files weighing hundreds or even thousands of megabytes, the difference will be much more noticeable, as well as the compression time, which can be much longer using the best method. Now, let's move on to more advanced WinRAR features. First, let's review the ability to password protect your archives. Let's create an archive again, but this time before creating the archive, let's click the Set Password button. Now, type in the desired password. You may check the Show Password box to view the password you wrote. Also, I suggest checking the Encrypt File Names box, as without this option, someone may not open the files, but they might still see the file names inside the archive. With file name encryption enabled, the archive contents are hidden until the correct password is entered. As you can see, when I try to open up the archive, it asks for a password, and after entering the correct password, only then can I access the files. Let's create another password-protected archive, but this time without file name encryption. As you can see, we can actually see the contents within the archive, but in order to extract them, we'll need to enter the correct password. The next advanced WinRAR feature I would like to show is how to add or remove files within an existing archive. Let's create an archive, and let's imagine that I forgot to add the last file. In order to add the last file, all you need to do is open up the existing archive and just drag the file into the archive, approve, and here you go. The file is added to the archive and now sits along with the other files. Furthermore, you can do the same in relation to deleting files. Just select the unwanted file, press the delete button on your keyboard, and approve. The file will be removed from within the archive. And the last useful everyday feature I would like to show you is archive testing for errors. This is a small feature, but very useful. Before sending an archive to someone, you can test it first to make sure it is not corrupted. This is especially useful after compressing large files, moving files to a USB drive, or downloading an archive from the internet. Just press on the test button, and if no errors are detected, it means the archive is fully operational. In case you get an error, you can try and repair the archive. It may not always work, but if the archive is slightly damaged, this option is definitely worth trying. In order to do so, just go to the Tools tab and select the Repair Archive option. Click OK, and WinRAR will recreate the archive potentially without errors if they existed in the first place. Now it's time to move on to some pro or semi-pro features. Let's start with one of my favorites, creating a multi-part archive, which is useful in case you want to split a large file into smaller ones. For example, when you would like to send someone the large file, but due to size limitations you can't. Splitting the large file into smaller ones solves this problem. To do so, before creating the archive, in the Split to Volumes part, enter the size you would like to split into. For example, I will enter 1 megabyte. Then just click OK, and you will see multiple archives marked as Part 1, Part 2, etc. Just keep in mind that to extract a split archive, all parts must be in the same folder, and it's best to start with the archive marked as Part 1. Now let's create an archive, which will be a self-extracting one. This is useful if the other person does not have WinRAR installed, as the archive will be an exe file instead of .rar. Just before creating an archive, mark the Create SFX Archive checkbox, and after clicking OK, the archive will be created as per usual, but as an executable file. This is useful for sending files to less technical users, but also keep in mind that you should only run .exe files from trusted sources. So if you download such a self-extracting archive from the internet, I suggest scanning it for malware first. Now I will introduce you to a feature called Add a Recovery Record. A recovery record slightly increases the archive size, but it gives WinRAR a better chance to repair the archive later if it becomes damaged. This is especially useful for important backups, files stored on old drives, large archives, or files being transferred online. To do so, simply tick the appropriate box before creating the archive, and that's it. If you are archiving something important, this is definitely the most important checkbox you should know about. If we compare the sizes of a regular archive and a recovery record, the regular is slightly smaller, but for more important files, it's certainly worth using this feature. And last, but not least, a feature for pro WinRAR users is Convert Archives, which is another underrated WinRAR feature. Basically, it allows converting archives from one type to another. Let's try to convert this existing RAR archive into a zip one. Click on the Tools tab and select the Convert Archives option. Now click on the Compression button, and let's change it from RAR to zip. Now let's click Browse to select a folder where we want our new archive to be saved at. And finally, let's click OK, and here we go. The RAR archive was successfully converted to a zip one. And that's how to use the most important WinRAR features without getting lost in all the advanced menus. If you found this helpful, leave a like, subscribe, and make sure to watch my next video where I demonstrate how to configure probably the safest torrent download app, BitTorrent, for beginners.